I did want to segue into Syria because I know I really want to get your input on this. We just heard NATO's Secretary General announcing these missile posts. I mean, what does this signify?
Well, that man is a bloody hypocrite. We saw him during Libya. His hands are dripping with blood. So he's coming forward as a great human rights champion. I was able to do a trip around Syria just a little bit more than a year ago. And on this network, on Russia Today, I said in an interview from Damascus, what's going on here are NATO death squads. That is the main thing that's always been the heart of the matter. Essentially, NATO has gone around and collected every jihadi, every Islamist fanatic, every misfit, every patsy from a stretch of land from Morocco to Indonesia, from Chechnya down to Somalia, over to Kosovo and so forth. And they've shipped them in, and they've given them weapons. And different countries have different groups, right? There's the Syrian National Council, which is the French DGSE, Secret Service, with money from Qatar. Most of these death squads are paid for by Saudi Arabia. They take orders over the television from a guy called Arur, who is a crazy fanatic. And now we've got the new one, which is the US-backed one, the new Syrian National Coalition, a new puppet group paid for by the US, organized by Ambassador Robert Ford, who had been the US ambassador to Damascus. He's a guy who learned the death squad technique from the past master, right, from Negroponte in Central America and then in Baghdad. And concerning this Syrian National Coalition, the head of that is a very interesting guy. He's an Anglo-Dutch agent. He's a British-Dutch agent. He's an executive of Royal Dutch Shell. He's a lobbyist for Royal Dutch Shell. He's kind of like Karzai. Remember Karzai in Afghanistan was Union Oil? This guy's Royal Dutch Shell. So there's nothing Syrian about this. In other words, these are foreign fighters. It's what would have been called the CIA secret army in the old days.
I wanted to play a couple clips that are...
But Syria's not signed up to the Chemical Weapons Convention, one of 7 countries that isn't. Does that suggest perhaps it has a reason not to be signed up to it, and it does have weapons, chemical weapons?
Well, I'm not violating any great confidence or any great prohibition in the intelligence community to tell you that we've known for years that Syria has chemical weapons stockpiles, just as Iraq had chemical weapons stockpiles for a while. But the fact that President Assad would be moving them around and preparing them for use against his own citizens within his own territory, I frankly find preposterous.
Why is it then that the US really want to pursue this and are using it for various reasons to justify not only rhetoric, but also serious talk of perhaps a military invasion?
Well, a serious question was just addressed by one of your previous commentators, and that is, why in the world would we put Patriot batteries on the Turkish border ostensibly to protect Turkey, with the largest army and the most powerful army in the region, indeed one of the most powerful in the world? Turkey needs no protection by us from that sort of thing, and it would be utterly stupid for Assad to attack Turkey in that way. So why are we doing these things that look like they are? So why are we doing these things that look like they aren't connected to reality, unless reality is we're preparing the ground to intervene in Syria?
And
Hello everyone, welcome to GGN. Today's Monday, December 10th, 2012. I'm Darko. I'd like to thank those who had donated recently over the weekend. I really do appreciate it. This first video I have up, or the first article, you can check out the video, it's on YouTube. Or actually I think it was pulled. Video shows Syrian militants get a child to behead prisoner. We've seen them caught on television, mainstream news covering them, and actually having them strap a prisoner, an Assad loyalist, and basically equip him with a bomb to go through a security gate, and basically as a suicide bomber. So, a shocking video surfaced on the internet showing militants in Syria having a child behead a kidnapped man. The clip, recently posted on YouTube, displays a child using a sword to chop off the head of the kidnapped, whose hands are tied up. The video also displays one of the militants at the scene showing the severed head and placing it on the dead body, and other beheaded prisoners can also be seen in the footage. However, the identities of the victims are not known. Says experts say the Arabic language spoken by the militants does not belong to the Syrian people, and they are believed to have Saudi accents. Lastly, on November 29th, a similar footage surfaced online displaying foreign-backed militants in the country killing 10 unarmed prisoners. Also, they've been, like I said, blowing up mosques and churches and stuff like that. Yeah, see, this is the video. This video has been removed as a violation of YouTube's policy on shocking and disgusting content. So you'll see all kinds of crazy stuff up there. But anything that paints their NATO-backed rebels terrorists, as Webster Tarpley put it, NATO death squads, in a bad light, well, then they remove it. Of course, a lot of things with truth and history, rewritten history, they like to call that hate speech as well. UK seeks to legitimize new Western-backed Syria opposition group. Talking about William Hague of Britain has called on other European countries to follow Britain in fully recognizing the Syrian National Coalition for Revolutionary Opposition Forces. And just another confirmation of what's going on there. 17 US warships now off Syria from December 10th. The Dwight D. Eisenhowers arrived off the shores of Syria. The multi-purpose nuclear attack carrier is leading the Naval Assault Group, which has arrived in the Eastern Med. It is in close proximity to the coast of Syria. On board the ship are 70 fighter bombers and a total of 8,000 U.S. servicemen. In all, there are now 17 American warships off the coast, including the 8,000 men. UK prince to join the Syria militants. The British government is drawing up a top-secret plan to send third in line to the British throne, Prince Harry, to Syria as part of a possible NATO operation in the Middle East. Interesting comment that someone wrote, Prince Harry does not have royal blue blood. I didn't know that. His life could be sacrificed where areas his half-brother William has the royal blue blood. So, they're talking about having an affair with this individual. Hewitt denies Prince Harry links, so, I don't know, whatever. It says U.S. plots to arm Syrian rebels. I do think it was interesting, though, about how they came out with the news about old girl being pregnant, Pippa, and then all of a sudden there's a suicide connected to that. There's just mysterious Illuminati type stuff that always happens concerning that family and that type stuff. U.S. plots to arm Syrian rebels with Muammar Gaddafi leftovers. So this isn't any real news. I've been covering this for the past, 4 months now, that Libya has become a smuggling state, and most of the weapons are coming through Libya. In fact, remember I was talking about how in Libya, the CIA, they said they were there to regulate, to stop the flow of arms into the Libyan jihadists. Well, it was my theory that the CIA was there to arm the jihadists and then send them off with a Greyhound bus ticket or whatever, a cruise ship ticket over to Syria to wreak havoc. The U.S. is launching a covert operation to send weapons to Syrian terrorists for the first time. See, they're not even Syrian, that's the thing. They're foreign terrorists for the first time as it ramps up military efforts for regime change to get another, maybe a CEO of Chevron or Royal Dutch Shell in there. Mortars, rocket-propelled grenades, which are used to kill civilians, and blame it on the government forces. Anti-tank missiles will be sent through the friendly Middle Eastern countries. Oh, Libya's so friendly. Remember I said how businesses don't even want to conduct commerce there because they're so fucking scared. Then we have Islamists lead the fighting after 6 months. Rebels gaining ground at Damascus. And they're not really gaining ground. They're losing. That's why they're talking about invasion, which they probably won't do. Like Tarpley said, they'll do drones and they'll do assassinations and types of color revolutions and all that type stuff. But it says here, yeah, the Islamists are leading the fighting, so Al-Qaeda's at the front lines, and they're openly backing them. Your countries, Western countries. Experts skeptical Syria is preparing to use its chemical arsenal, and so now they're starting to backpedal on the whole chemical thing, with concerns over Syria's chemical weapons. It says international experts are cautioning against alarmism, saying there's no confirmation that Syrians are mixing weapons components or loading them into delivery systems. Then we have next up, Israel not concerned by Assad's chemical weapons. The minister insists Israeli deterrence sufficient to prevent attacks. So it is kind of interesting that Israel will come out and say this, basically because they have a tendency to what? To see existential threats in almost anything. So what's going on there? Then you have Israeli special forces inside Syria tracking chemical and biological weapons. The London Times is reporting that Israeli special forces are operating within Syria. Sure, they have been the whole time in an effort to track the Syrian regime's stockpile of weapons. Then next up, the U.S. defense contractors training Syrian rebels to handle chemical weapons. The U.S.-funded training supposedly aimed at teaching rebels to secure chemical weapons stockpiles. Interesting, because I just covered this before about a troubling video that appears on YouTube showing rebel fighters testing chemical weapons in Syria and little innocent rabbits and killing them, saying, "This is what we're going to do to you, Assad." They had a whole little plastic box and everything. It was a little science experiment they were carrying out. So I'm sure that they got instructions on how to handle it. The report says the Department of Defense is drafting plans to strike Syrian chemical weapons targets. Just recently, they also, the House or the Senate, Congress basically, they sent to Obama basically a bill to authorize a no-fly zone. So that as well. So this is interesting. This is something that kind of brewed up recently. This Obama's giveaway oil-rich islands to Russia. So it says here, an exclusive Joe Miller sounds the alarm over deal to put lands in the hands of Putin's Kremlin. This is from December, I don't think this is from December 10th, 2012. Yeah, this is from February 16th, 2012. So why did this all of a sudden get circulated throughout the alternative media just in December? I mean, I remember hearing about this, about giving 7 Alaskan islands to Russia for basically stepping down and not interfering in Syria. So, but it's from WorldNet Daily, and I remember hearing about WorldNet Daily from Land Destroyer Report, their blog. And I guess it says here that the alternative media figure, this Joseph Farah neocon and cognitive infiltrator, has a neocon agenda and sits on advisory groups with these PNAC signatories. And it goes on there and it equates WorldNet Daily with like shows like Glenn Beck and stuff. Farah's propaganda attempts to parrot alternative media whilst reasserting essential talking points those who have departed traditional left-right camps have left behind. In essence, Farah and WorldNet Daily are the right wing of Cass Sunstein's cognitive infiltration, a policy described in Sunstein's paper Conspiracy Theories as a cognitive infiltration of extremist groups aiming to introduce informational diversity into such groups. That was interesting to see what Russia would be saying after all that. Russian Foreign Minister downplays U.S. talks, insists future of Assad not up for discussion. Talks continue, but no signs of progress. They reject reports that negotiations between Russia and the U.S. on Syria would end with demands for Syria's Assad's basically ouster or stepping down. Then on Clinton's re-Sovietization claims, Putin says it's rubbish. So he considers her accusations that Moscow is seeking to reinvent the Soviet Union as rubbish, and it's very strange to hear when some colleagues abroad say that it is the rebirth of Russia's ambitions as the former Soviet Union. What rubbish, he said at a presidential campaign, and Russia plans to impose sanctions against U.S. rights violators. Their House is slated to debate a draft law imposing sanctions against Americans accused of violating the rights of Russian citizens. It comes as a retaliatory move after the U.S. Congress passed the Magnitsky list on December 6, targeting people who have allegedly been involved in the death and custody of Russian lawyer in Moscow in 2009. Quote, "It's amazing that a country that created secret prisons on the territory of other countries where people are tortured like in the Dark Ages is lecturing others," said a Duma chairman. The foreign minister described the law as an anti-Russian prank. The next up, end drawing close for Syria's Assad, says German spy. So Germans are funding these Patriot missiles. They're sending troops to Turkey, to Syria's, basically to Syria, and now the spy chief is getting involved, saying the end is drawing near. So he's playing in line with the Brookings Institute policy for regime change. which is to basically lie, which is to say that the Assad regime is going down when it's not and it's still strong. Thank you.